Well, Martin Boyce we considered an important artist to represent in the collection. He's a graduate of Glasgow School of Art, he's a Scottish artist. We felt in looking at Martin's work over recent years, he had a fabulous exhibition at the Tramway in Glasgow where he created an environment, a rather otherworldly place that one could wander around the various sort of sculpture elements in it. And it was with that in mind that we hoped he might propose something similar to us, and he did exactly that.
The starting point for much of the work over the last 5 years has been an image of 4 concrete trees, 4 abstract, sort of almost cubist trees that I came across. The trees were made by these 2 brothers, sculptors, Jan and Joel Martel, and they were made for a Robert Malley Stevens garden in the 1925 exhibition of the Decorative Arts in Paris. So I started by making models of the tree and trying to kind of understand its sort of formal logic. And I started to see possibilities for repeat patterns, which became these linear sort of repeat designs. And these shapes have then gone on to become part of almost every other sculptural work that I've made. I tend to kind of deal with kind of spatial quality. I'm very interested in the relationship with space and the objects. So someone like the Italian film director Antonioni, really, the images and use of space in the frame is a really kind of big influence on my work. And so these are things, obviously often consciously thinking about, but they've obviously fed into it at some point. One thing that I try not to do with the work is to kind of, for the work aesthetically, to be drawn into the past, so that it doesn't become, that it's not about a fascination with an aesthetic, that it's about pulling things from the past into the present and seeing how that kind of shift of time has affected those objects. The first piece that I made in relation to the Martel concrete tree was I made a photographic piece which showed the tree as a kind of out of focus white glowing object on a black background, and it was called Phantom Tree. I didn't want to be going into the past to revisit that tree. I wanted the tree to reappear now, and so this was it, reappearing now as a kind of phantom, and then the work started to spiral out from that. Quite often with the titles of some of the installations or even the sculptures individually, they kind of include almost like a figurative presence. They'll use the word we or you. For example, there's a piece called "We Are Resistant, We Dry Out in the Sun," which was originally I wrote, it was a text I wrote thinking about a park bench, this idea that it's just constantly there, regardless of the weather, this kind of stubborn kind of object. But of course, once you include the we, then it starts to have a kind of emotional kind of possibility. The title of this exhibition, Electric Trees and Telephone Booth Conversations, which has a coupling, in terms of language, it's really kind of fascinating, quite poetic. That in itself made me think about the concrete, which relates to urban textures and architecture, and the tree in relation to landscape and nature. And so you have these 2 things kind of thrust together. The combination of objects, a combination of sculptures and forms are just very carefully considered in terms of what kind of atmosphere, what kind of location or landscape is conjured up. We made maybe 3 or 4 site visits to Venice to find the site, and one of my initial ideas was to replace the existing chandeliers with my own sculptural kind of versions. And so that gave a structure to every room throughout the palazzo. So ultimately, the installation was made with that space very much in mind. What happens now is, of course, as the exhibition comes down in Venice and goes straight to Dundee, and we're now in the process of working out how to reconfigure the exhibition for a completely different space. So we're going from a 15th century Venetian palazzo to, a contemporary art space. So it's, again, another really exciting proposition.